Hey guys, it's Max. This video is about the Panasonic GH5. It was just announced earlier today. I'm very excited that it finally was announced. I've been waiting for over a year, and it's been about 2.5 years since the GH4 came out. The competition have been pushing forward and increasing the quality of their cameras, of the features, and Panasonic really hasn't been doing that. They've put out less expensive options with some of the new features that the GH4 had. Not much in addition to that, so I'm very excited, but it doesn't seem like it really was an announcement. It seems like they were forced to give out a little bit of the specs, give a little teaser just to gain some more attention back to their brand, which Sony's been teasing, and some of the teasing or Sony's been taking away, and kind of just keep people excited until the camera launches. So unfortunately we didn't get enough details, I don't think. So that's what this video is about. It's just me talking about the specs. I've been doing a lot of research and trying to figure out what the possibilities are, what some of the drawbacks could be, and just talk about that. So if you want to watch a video like that, you guys keep watching, and I'm going to have a link to a GH5 group that I'm starting on Facebook. If you guys want to go and join that, it'll be in the video description. So first off, let's talk about the specs. So here's the specs that were released. 4K 10-bit, 422 internal up to 30 FPS. Very impressive. Nothing else at this price point has this. That's a hybrid camera. Sure, you can go with Blackmagic. They have their own drawbacks, but the next thing that I know of that does this is the FS7 at about $8,000. It's way too big for me personally for most of the shoots that I do. It doesn't do photos, which I don't do on the GH4 anyways, but this is great for a camera like this. Next, also awesome, so 8-bit 422 60 FPS 4K recording. Now the GH4 does 420 8-bit internal, so we're getting twice the frame rate of the GH4's 4K and a little bit better codec as well. Here on we have 20 megapixel micro four thirds sensor, which personally I am disappointed in. I'll talk about that later. 6K photo mode. So after the announcement, some people actually got this wrong. They thought it was actually 6K video. It is not. It's just going to be a way of shooting lots of stills really fast and then picking and choosing some from that. If you're trying to kind of capture some sports or some type of a shoot where you want to get the right still, it's not going to be any sort of a video feature. I think it's more of marketing, just saying 6K because it sounds higher than 4K and everybody's obsessed with 4K. They've had 30 FPS photo modes with electronic shutter before, so I don't think that's that big of a deal. So a lot of stuff wasn't mentioned. Like I said, I did a lot of research. First off, let's go and talk about the sensor. So this is a disappointment for me. Like I mentioned, it's not a 12 or a 14 megapixel sensor. This is one of the biggest things I was hoping for, and I think this is one of the biggest things that they really needed is a smaller sensor. Now, if you shop the GH4 or you kind of know the market, almost every GH4 that is sold, the person buys it to use video. There are some still shooters that shoot with the GH4, but the majority of people who buy one buy it for video. Now, why did most people leave the GH4 line? The people that left for Sony or for something else, why did they leave? Low light. The number one complaint about the GH4 is low light. So having a sensor that has less resolution means that it's going to be better in low light. Look how successful the Sony A7S line was. So I was hoping that Panasonic would pick up and say, hey, why was the A7S so successful? The low light, what do we suck at the most? The low light, let's get a smaller sensor. They didn't do that. So it would have been, if they would have kept the aspect ratio that they had before of their micro four thirds sensor, it would have been 14 megapixel. If they changed it to a more standard sensor that's used in most other hybrid cameras, it would have been a 12 megapixel sensor that would have improved low light by about a stop. That didn't happen. So the sensor, it could be the same sensor that's in the GX8. That's the newest Sony micro four thirds sensor. It's 20 megapixels. Who knows, it could be a newer version of that. But if it is, it's going to be about one stop better in low light. So personally, I wouldn't shoot above 800 on my GH4. That's why I sold my GH4s and I moved over to the NX1s because of better low light. One stop better is not enough. I think at this point in time, with all these new cameras that are doing really good in low light, the X-T2 and 4K, I'm really impressed with the low light. A6300 that I'm recording on right now is really good in low light. The NX1 is really clean at 1600, so I don't think it's enough. So at 1600, if it's clean, that's okay. I think 3200 is really where it needs to be. I rarely have to go above 3200, extremely rarely, but I want a camera that's clean at 3200. A lot of these cameras do that, and the GH4 does not, and so that's definitely a disappointment. Another thing about a negative about having a large sensor is the crop. You look at the 5D Mark IV, you look at the new Nikon cameras, they're all cropping to get that 4K image. GH4 did that as well, so you have a 2x crop over full frame, and then you have an additional crop, so it's 2.3 times crop over full frame to get that 4K image on the GH4. Now, if this is the same sensor, and if it's processing the same as the GX8, we're gonna have a 2.5 times crop over full frame. So why does that crop suck? One, it's harder to get a wide shot. Your wide lenses aren't as wide. Two, the low light is worse because you're not using the whole sensor. And three, you're getting more in focus, which a lot of people don't like about Micro Four Thirds cameras already. Smaller sensor, you have more in focus. It's hard to get that shallow depth of field look. And so when you're cropping in, additionally, you get even more in focus and you get even worse low light performance. If they would have went with a smaller sensor, you're not cropping in. You're keeping your shallow depth of field as much as you can on this camera. You're getting better low light. One benefit, if it's not going to have a crop in 4K, and I think this is a possibility in the 30 FPS mode. I think in the 60 FPS mode, it probably will have a crop because it's going to be a lot to process 60 FPS and not crop in. But in the 4K up to 30 FPS, there's a possibility they can process all that data and downsample that into a 4K image. So probably roughly maybe about 16, 18 megapixels down to 8, like what the A6300 does and the NX1. Then one option we could have, which I don't know why Sony hasn't done, is a central crop. So you can either use a full sensor to have that shallow depth of field, or if you want to get closer to your subject and you can't do that by moving or using a different lens, you select that option. It goes 1:1 pixel readout, gives you a nice crop. So that would be nice to have. I think that's what the A7S III needs to do, is have a somewhere between a 20 and 24 megapixel sensor and include that crop, which would be really useful. Okay, so we're done with sensor. IBIS, in-body image stabilization. Now, this is really weird. It could have in-body image stabilization. This is something that I really, really want, and this is like a killer feature. If it has this, there's a possibility I might have 3 GH4 or GH5s and start shooting weddings with those and ditch the NX1s, or not go with the newer Sony system. But if it doesn't have this, I'm not going to go with 3 of them. I might just get one for the 4K 60. But this is a big selling point. Now, the G80 that they just announced, they made this a big deal. They talked about it. You look at this GX85, it has the image stabilization. The A7S II, A7R II has a sensor stabilization. This is great to have. I love shooting with the Sigma lenses, 18 to 35 and the 50 to 100. Those are not stabilized, so if your camera can stabilize it with the sensor, it's amazing. The Olympus cameras have it. A lot of new cameras are coming out with that. So they didn't mention it, which is really, really weird. They mentioned it on their other cameras. They did not mention it. Either that means it's not going to have it at all, or possibly they're not sure if it's going to have it. I mean, I think if it was going to have it, they would have mentioned it. So it's going to suck if it doesn't. So much people are adapting other lenses, adapting older lenses, adapting prime lenses to the GH4s. And having that sensor stabilization it's great for video, for handheld work, for longer lenses, even on a tripod if you're using like the 50 to 100, it helps out with that. So I really hope it has this, and it's really going to suck if it doesn't. It wouldn't make sense for them not to put it in unless they just think it's a consumer feature. You know, this $800 camera has it, and it's awesome. The G80 is going to have it, but they didn't mention it. So next, here's another big deal for me, and I know for a lot of other people, is phase detect autofocus. When using this camera, when using the GH4 or the G7, the sensor, the processor tracks faces really well. It'll show a box around the face and even a couple lines through an eye. It shows the person walking really well for the autofocus, but the autofocusing system just sucks at tracking. If you guys watch my review on it's the 12mm f1.4, there's some examples. It does a terrible job because it's contrast autofocus detection. For photos it works well, but for video it doesn't do well at all. Now the 5D Mark IV has great video autofocus with the touchscreen. It's so nice to have, just like their 70D and 80D. The Fuji autofocusing system in here I'm really impressed by. The A6300 works so well, and I don't use it all the time. But it is really useful at times. Tracking a bride walking down the aisle, if you're just using a lens, especially with the mirrorless lenses that have the electronic focusing rings, it's really hard to have a nice, steady autofocusing. But turn on face tracking on the A6300 or on the NX1, and it just does an amazing job for something like that. Or on a gimbal. I love using my A6300 on a gimbal, even though it's a love-hate relationship with the camera overall, but I love using it because it tracks so well. It does a great job. Now the GH4 sucks at it. It's disappointing. Okay, I'm gonna stop complaining about the GH4, but they didn't mention anything. And I think this is really important. I think they really need this, and it would really improve the camera. So yeah, that's another reason, another way that I may not end up buying 3 of these cameras. I may just end up buying 1 of them, or maybe not at all if I just go with the Ursa 4.6K for the 4K slow motion. Yeah, so let's move on. Bit rates, they didn't announce anything about bit rates on this camera. The G8 or G80, they announced 8-bit 422 4K, and actually I think this is incorrect. I think it was the FZ2500 that is 200 megabits per second at 4K, so kind of ignore that. So since they're doing 10-bit 422 internal, it can't use the same codec. We don't know what it's going to use. If you look at the VariCam LT, which is about 20 grand, that will do 4K at 422 10-bit at 388 megabits per second or 196, depending on how much space you have to use, and it's using ABC Intra. So why is this important? Well, it's going to probably record to SD cards, probably UHS 2 SD cards. And in order to store all that data, to make use of that better codec, you need to have file sizes that are big enough. And they could limit us with that, or they could not. So 388 and 196, that would make sense. So hopefully that's what they're doing. ProRes, there's a possibility the VariCam LT uses ProRes only in HD. It would be sweet if we had ProRes. I definitely would prefer that over another H.264 codec or H.265. The NX1, I think, failed because of having H.265, but it's been a couple of years now. Windows 10 supports it. The new Vegas is coming out. It's going to support it. Premiere Pro has been supporting it for a while. You know, all the new Intel processors and all the new graphics cards support decoding and encoding. So I think it's about time that we can use that. So H.265 is about half the size of these other codecs and about the same quality or even slightly better at half the size. So we'll see what happens. Same thing with the 60 FPS. I think that's going to have to be that higher bit rate. So this does matter if you're going to want to make good use of that 10-bit codec. Next, SD cards. This Fuji is a small camera, smaller than the GH5 is going to be. Let me see if I can get it open here. Maybe not with one hand. Anyways, it has dual card slots. I think it's super, super important on a higher-end camera, especially at that price range of about $2 grand. You can either use it when one card fills up to record your second one, especially with the GH4 and 5. Going to have it's not going to be limited to 30 minutes, or you can use it as a backup, which I would do. SD cards can fail, files can get corrupted, so if you just stick 256 gig cards in there, that would be great. So if you guys can see the picture, I don't know if I can zoom in here. Nope, just exited the presentation. Anyways, it looks like it's larger, the actual slot cover compared to the GH4. So it's a possibility. I really hope they do add that. It's definitely is going to be used by me if they have that. Another thing we saw is the audio interface. So the however you pronounce it, YAGH that they had for the GH4, that was a huge failure, and almost nobody bought it and used it. And the price just dropped like a rock, and then more people picked it up because it was so cheap. That didn't work out, so they went with this style, like a Sony style, where it has XLRs, phantom power, should be fairly easy to use. I don't know why it's sideways. I think it'd make more sense to be facing the backside of the camera where the screen is and the controls are. But anyways, it's great that they're going to offer something like this. I have no idea what it's going to be priced at, but I did want to mention it. And I think I would pick up one of these and use it. Great with XLR mics if you have a shotgun on a boom, plug straight into the camera with good quality audio that you don't have to sync up in post. And last, release date and price. First half of 2017 was mentioned. I think that means probably late spring, early summer. I doubt it's going to be anywhere near winter time. So there's no price mentioned, but I think realistically with these options, we can expect $2,000, maybe a little bit more. Possibly priced the same as the GH4, but if we look at the pricing from the GH2 going to the GH3 and the GH4, there's basically price increases all the time, one for inflation and two better, newer features. And with 10-bit, 422, 4K, 60 FPS, I mean, $2,000 I think is a good price. It just sounds good, $19.99. They could go higher. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I don't think we can expect it any lower than $1,700. Probably $2,000, maybe $2,200 in that price range. So that's it. I'm excited they made this announcement, and I'm really curious what else, the additional specs and stuff like that. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any other additional information, anything like that. Of course, the announcement was just made recently, earlier today. So hopefully there's going to be more information out. If you guys want to join that GH5 user group on Facebook, you guys can click the link in the description or down in the comment section. I'll post it there too. And as soon as there's more information, I will be sharing it on there. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.